Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto, and you are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. Believe it!
It's time for your Talk Time Live exclusive.
You are now about to witness the strength of geek knowledge.
Ladies and gentlemen, returning to the show is a guest who is starring in the much anticipated spinoff to the Naruto series known as Boruto, Naruto Next Generations, which now airs on TOONAMI back to back with Naruto Shippuden. She is the voice of Boruto, and she is here to talk about the new series and much more. Ladies and gentlemen, folks, I give you the one and only notorious ACM, Amanda Celine Miller. How you doing, love?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. First of all, let me break it down. We talked about this last time. What's the weather like right now in your area?
Right now, it's, I think it was in the 90s today in LA. And this is like end of October, and it's still like summer.
Yeah, we got to do something. Do you know what the weather is right now here? It's 40. Can we?
Oh my gosh!
Can we? Two extremes, right? Can we just like come together, merge these two, and make a better paradise?
I would totally dig if I was just in New York the other week and I loved it. Like, and then I was in Vancouver and I'm just like, I love this like hipster weather where I get to wear my flannel and my hoodie and my jacket and layer.
I'm a layer up fan. I'm telling you now, I love the fall and spring. So it's just like you get to have a little bit the best of the both. And I always wonder because Philly, I can't complain too much. Philly gets the medium of like everything. And I feel bad sometimes because whenever there's a big hurricane or a disaster somewhere, we kind of get the after results of it, which it feels actually good. But at the same time, it's like, I can't enjoy this too much. There are people, going through some things.
People might be dead, but I'm getting a really nice breeze right now.
Yeah, it's kind of like that. So it's like, I can't like walk around like I'm, Jimmy O'Toole or something like that, happy as hell. But thank you for coming back on. This is actually, ladies and gentlemen, this is actually take 2 of this soiree that we're having right now because I had a bit of a technical difficulty and the lovely Amanda Celine Miller has graciously come back on to talk about everything that we've gone in. So I do appreciate you. You're a rock hard badass for doing it.
No problem.
But I mean, you're just coming off a tour of your cons and everything. And what was the last tour? Wasn't it Canada, I believe?
Yeah, so I kind of did like a little bouncing around where I was in Edmonton, which is Canada, and then I was in New York for New York Comic Con, and then I was in Vancouver. So now I'm back here, and then I have another con. I'm at NecoCon in Virginia next month.
And basically, because when I looked at your social media page, and I seen that you're in Canada like more than just one time this year, right?
Yeah, I was in there. It was at least 3. Yeah, because I had there's like a Sailor Moon convention in Toronto earlier this year.
Yeah, I almost felt like you were going in between becoming the spokesman for Tim Hortons or you're becoming Kevin Smith. So...
Oh my God. Kevin Smith would be awesome.
That is true.
Also, with the Tim Hortons thing, it's so funny because if you want to piss off a Canadian, call donut holes. Because they're disgusted by it. Like, they're like, ew, what's a donut hole? It's called a Timbit. I'm like, what's a Timbit? It's a donut hole. And they get so, like, weirded out by it.
In Philly, we do have that similar debate where it's based on tomato sauce on a pizza. It's like, if you're from South Philly, it's gravy. If you're from everywhere else, it's tomato sauce and whatever. And it's interesting.
And what do you call this stuff like for Thanksgiving?
Amanda, don't get me talking.
They just don't do it. They're like, no, we use the tomato sauce on a turkey too. Like, we just do it everywhere.
Consider this a warning whenever you venture down to Philly for maybe a con appearance or whatever. Just don't go down to the 9th Street market where Rocky ran, because you will be running if you mention the word tomato sauce down there. You will actually have to go to the art museum steps in order to beat everybody at this point. So, all right, let's talk Boruto, because, last time we actually got on the show and you were with me with Molly, you guys were together for the first time ever talking about the movie. Mm-hmm. I didn't need a crystal ball to predict the obvious. To me, it was obvious that, you did such a great job on the movie that I would be really surprised. And I know you guys said that, you never know and there's no guarantees. I didn't know if there was a non-disclosed agreement, maybe, that you had to go by and say that and play, kayfabe on it. But I absolutely just knew that. I'm like, no, you're too good. So
well, thank you. But no, it was not some sort of NDA thing. It really is kind of just like, you never know.
Right.
Things change. They might decide to go in a different direction, or people move. Like, it kind of just really depends. So you just enjoy what you have while you have it, and then one day when you don't have it, you're like, well, I'm glad I enjoyed that thing.
Absolutely.
Well, it was mine.
But now you are officially the voice of Boruto in your own show now, and which is now airing on Saturday evenings. Thank goodness. Thank you, TOONAMI, because I couldn't do the stoner time of 2:00, which they had in East Coast. They had that at like 1 or 2 in the morning, where it's like, if you go to California, it's like it's like 3 hours.
It's a reasonable hour.
Right. It's a reasonable hour. And I remember when I went to San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm like, well, look at that.
Yeah, like 11 or something.
Exactly. So I really, like, that one time enjoyed it. Now I feel like I get the California experience, or West Coast experience now. But how excited were you when you got the news that you were going to reprise the role and, do the entire series this time?
I mean, I was pretty excited. Like, I mean, to be fair, I figured, unless I heard otherwise, I was probably going to do the series, but there was such a big gap between, we did the video games first. So we did the first 2 games, and then we did the movie. And then there was like a 1 or 2 year gap where we like didn't know anything. So there was a moment where we're like, are we doing the show? What's happening? So, yeah.
But I mean, definitely. And added to that, you know what's funny? I got into an interview. I was at a press interview at a con in Philly, which hopefully, it was done by Repop, so hopefully that'll somehow get you over to our side in our neck of the woods for the first time. But we got a chance I got a chance to talk to Kevin Conroy in the press interview, and he was saying, and I guess this is probably more geared for American animation, that, it was a 1-day deal, and you don't know where it's going from there. Is it the same case when it comes to anime?
That it was a 1-day deal?
Like, when he first went in to do the first episode, the pilot episode of Batman, they were on contract for 1 day, and you didn't know where that was going from there, whether they were going to like you, whether it was going to be good. Was it the same? Is it kind of the same experience on that note as for anime?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think animation's a little different because anime doesn't have pilots. Anime, by the time it gets to the States, it's already like, it already has whatever 13, 26 or whatever episodes. So when it comes to us, it's going to series. Whereas for animation, like, I did a Disney pilot a couple years ago, and it goes through so many phases of like development where, so he's right. You kind of go in, you do your 1 day of work, and you're just like, well, that was fun. Yeah. And then you don't really bank on it because the show might not get picked up, or it might get picked up, but they might replace you with a celebrity because that's really popular right now. Yeah, they might pick it up with you, but it might not go to that network, or they might completely change your character to a 12-year-old dude or whatever. Like, it just kind of depends. So yeah, animation's much more because they focus test the crap out of everything, especially for kids shows, because they have to focus test the pilot, like the storyboarded animatics against like groups of boys, groups of girls. Do they both like it? Is it, do psychologists see any problems with it? There's so many different steps. So yeah, most pilots never see the light of day after they're recorded. So you kind of just go in, enjoy it, and forget about it.
Right. For those who have not seen the Japanese version of Boruto, can you give us an idea of what to expect from this series?
So Boruto basically, so the movie came out first, and the movie takes place kind of like more than halfway through the series of Boruto. So Boruto, when you start it, it's kind of, I guess, like a sequel to Naruto Shippuden, but it's a prequel to the Boruto movie, if that makes sense.
Right.
And then about, I think, was it like episode 60 something, or like in the 60s or 70s, the series finally catches up with the timeline of the movie, and they actually revisit that. They revisit that story, and apparently it's really epic because it like takes multiple episodes, so they have more time, and they really delve into side plots that they didn't get to go into in the movie, and they reanimated a lot of it, and apparently the animation's gorgeous. So we haven't gotten that far yet, but yeah, it picks up with your favorite characters, but just as adults. So.
And then it's going to further take us to an area that we had no idea was going to happen to. I do know.
Yeah. in the opening scene, I won't give any spoilers away, but in the opening scene, a lot's gone down. And then, of course, they don't explain any of it. They're just like, hey, this is a glimpse of the future. Right. And then they just kind of cut to like, okay, but for now, we're just going to have fun. And then eventually we'll get to all the doom and gloom. Right. So.
But that's the part I love about not just anime itself, but this series in particular, because the Boruto series, or the Naruto series for that matter, how it contrasts from all the other animes to me is that it does have a serious tone to me, in some cases matches to a primetime American live action TV show. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some issues sometime, and there's some moments in time that it's really deep and really emotional, and they really mastered that emotion there. So I am so looking forward to what your character is going to be doing in this series, especially from what we already saw from the movie, the movie that we saw and such. And it's good. I got a feeling it's going to be really awesome going on. There's already some great, replies from fans already on this. Yeah, it's definitely the responses are kind of split, because some people kind of feel like they look at Boruto like, how dare you ingrate, because they grew up with Naruto. Naruto's I always say Naruto's like the Harry Potter of the anime world, because it really is.
It ran so long that people grew up with this character, and like Harry Potter, they were both orphans, so you felt protective of this character, and you saw them overcome the odds, and he became Hokage and all these things. And then I hope that's not a spoiler. I'm like, I don't know where people are in the streets, whatever. Sorry, but anyway, he achieves his dreams, and then Boruto, he was raised with the benefit of having both parents, and he had a pretty well-to-do upbringing because of his dad's job, but he's not happy because, he has those material things, but he doesn't have the emotional support because he doesn't have his dad. Like, his dad is never home. His dad always prioritizes work over his family, going so far as to send like a shadow clone to his daughter's birthday instead of showing up himself.
Yeah, I did. That was it. What's funny with that scene? You kind of understood what was going on, and it's hard because people judge too quickly, but before they really totally don't use critical thinking about the situations that they see, and just not just in the series in life. But if you followed Naruto throughout his entire lifespan of the series, you kind of understand where this is going, and now that he finally has achieved it, he now understands the responsibilities that is coming too. But Boruto as a kid, you got to look at it from a different perspective. But it's a double-edged sword of trying to have empathy for Naruto and sympathy for Boruto at this point.
Yeah, I think the empathy for Boruto will come because ultimately, also, I think the scene in the movie that gives away Boruto's actual like feelings on his dad are the scene where Naruto comes in and he like congratulates his son on doing a good job with the Chunin exams,
right?
And Boruto's just like, okay, cool. Like, you could have, whatever. And then the moment his dad, like, leaves the room, he, like, squeals and, like, kind of does, like, this, like, little happy dance and, like, starts to tear up because he's so excited that he got his dad's approval and that his dad saw him and noticed him. So that, even though he acts like a complete butt to his dad, which I have to be careful because I called him a butthole once at Comic-Con, and for some reason I got in trouble because I'm like, butthole, that's like a PG word, but, like, everybody in my cast looked at me like I had just said like the worst word in the world. And I was like, what? There's nothing wrong with the word butthole. And everybody's like, stop saying butthole. So anyway, but it's also funny because Miley apparently, the engineer the other day was telling me, she's like, yeah, Miley really, she's like, why is Boruto such a little brat? Because the only scenes that Miley has with Boruto are the ones where I'm like, whatever, Dad, like, I hate you, stupid old man. Like, so it's just like, she doesn't get to see any of like the scenes where he's like saving his friends or where he's cheering up. Like, she just sees this like snotty little kid. So it's just kind of funny.
As long as there's no animosity when you guys actually meet up.
I don't know. I love Miley. She loves me. It's just funny because she's like, Jesus, this kid, right?
And speaking of which, she's actually tweeting right now. That's great.
All right.
God bless her. But going on to that, what exactly have you learned about the character since you portrayed it? Have you, I mean, just aside from the fact of his, situations with the father or whatever, have you understood him, empathetically along the way?
Yeah, I mean, well, because I also kind of had a dad who like was, he loved me, I loved him, but he worked a lot, and there's always that he worked a lot for, like, he would travel a lot for business, like, so I definitely empathize with that element of like, I just want you to notice me and love me, and that makes him sound bad. He wasn't a bad dad, he just was very busy.
Right, exactly.
And also I moved around a lot as a kid, and now it's kind of cool because I was an Air Force kid, and so, but at the time I hated it. I had a lot of resentment towards my parents, and I was that moody little middle schooler who's like, I wish, I just, I want to hang out with my friends, but you guys moved me away, blah, blah, blah. So like, I very much relate to the middle school angst, and I get it. Like, it seems overblown to an adult when you have like a rational perspective, but when you're a kid, your whole world is just your family and your friends.
Yeah, I know. I've actually been through that before myself, and it's hard. It's hard, and then it's one of those things you'll never understand until you get older.
Exactly.
Which I do. I think the type of fans that will be drawn more to this show are the people who do experience that type of situation or have, growing up. So it does happen.
Yeah.
It's just a way of life, unfortunately, sometimes. But first of all, I mean, I should have congratulated you in the first place, but this is your first major lead role in an anime. And, my question to you for that is, do you feel that now that you're the main character of your own series, that there's a certain sense of responsibility that comes with it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, it's kind of it can be overwhelming because my next biggest character to this was Sailor Jupiter in Sailor Moon Crystal and the redub,
right.
And like that was still one of the main 5 characters, but she wasn't the title character, so there was definitely scrutiny because there was a pre-existing dub from when we were all kids, so we were competing against people's nostalgia, but it still wasn't completely. I didn't have to shoulder it all, we kind of split it evenly among us. But for this, it really is like, my character's the name of the show, and it follows a show that ran for like 15 years. Right. So people grew up with it. We're also kind of fighting nostalgia a little bit because people are like, why? This show's replacing Naruto, even though I'm pretty sure Naruto would have come to an end. Boruto came out or not. Like, right. So Boruto's just like a nice little icing on the cake. Like, here you go. Here's some more.
Well, it's funny. Those are the same people who used to watch Tiny Toons back in the day, too. And I always said that, like, this, when I watched the series for what I did watch, because I did stop watching it, the Japanese version, just when I knew that you guys were going to come up with it. So I was like, nope, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for you guys, and I'll go watch a dub, because, we talked about this before, but I'm like, nah, I can't. I can't do sub and multitask at the same time. It's just unheard of. So, but if I have to, I will. But I had a hunch that you guys were gonna go full, English dub with this, so I just waited it out, and thank God I was right. But it just reminds me of like Tiny Toon Adventures, in a sense that like these are the next generation, like it's called, like it's titled, and you're pretty much the Buster Bunny of this show, pretty much. So it's hard. It amazes me that people will like want to complain about that, but the minute you talk about Tiny Toons, I'm like, oh, I love that show. But moving on to that question though, you are a minority in a starring role, which, I don't know how rare that is. And you do have a rich and beautiful multicultural background history. And pretty much from what you said, 35% of you is going to be in the cookout period. So, but did you feel, getting into the business and the industry that you had more or less challenges to earn opportunities because of that?
It's yes and no. So basically, like for the people who don't know, I have like a multicultural, multinational kind of background because my mom is from France. Mm-hmm. And so I have a French and Swiss citizenship through her. And then I have American citizenship through my dad. So like I was born in Germany because he was an Air Force guy. So like that kind of like the international element. And then my dad is from Louisiana. So we're part Black, part Native American, part white. And then obviously my mom's like French and white and all that.
Right.
So I was both helped and hurt by that. I think I came to Hollywood at a good time because they were getting over the idea that American only looks one way, So they were kind of starting to be like, ooh, what about this like ethnically ambiguous category, which is the category I fall into. And it was appealing to them because they were like, okay, we can appeal to multiple demographics. Oh, this is for like on camera stuff.
Right.
But they were like, we can appeal to multiple demographics without really being specific as to who that demographic is. Cause it's like, she could be Egyptian, like Middle Eastern. She could be Italian. She could be Latina, so that was helpful for a little bit. Like I had a little bit of success with commercials, cause that was where it was most popular, but I could not for the life of me get on camera, for theatrical, like TV and film.
Right.
I did student films and stuff, but it was really hard to get an agent. And part of that, is just that it's hard to get an agent, period, regardless of what your color. And actually, a lot of my white friends say they have a just as hard or even harder a time because agencies don't need them. They're like, we already have 1 million blonde hair, blue-eyed white girls. Right. We need a couple more diverse, we need a couple more Asians. We need a couple more whatever because we already have like that category. So, but part of it also is there's body type issues when it comes to like different ethnicities and stuff. And I definitely have a little bit more of a brown girl body type. So that has hindered me a little bit on camera world because a lot of these women are they're like size 2 or size 0, and I am definitely not.
Right.
So I think hopefully that'll start to change soon that like, you can have more curvy bodies. You can have all types of bodies and all ethnicities. Beauty is appreciated. But anyway.
Agreed.
That's rambling.
But no, that actually segues to the other question. I mean, in your opinion, from the time that you started until now, do you feel that the landscape of the industry has increased in the years, or does it still have a lot of work to do in your particular industry?
I think it definitely has changed, especially like in the past. Like I don't know, like once people started being like, "Hey, no, we're not gonna keep being quiet about there not being representation." Like I think in like the last like 5, more recently, like the past 2 years especially. Suddenly people are like, oh, I guess we should try harder to make sure that our country is represented in our media. So you're starting to see more shows that represent other kinds of families. And you would never have seen like a Fresh Off the Boat or a Blackish like 10 years ago.
Let alone a Modern Family.
Right. Exactly. And so it's like we're making a lot of really cool strides. And even in voiceover, we're in a weird phase where they're actually being really ethnically specific.
Right.
So it used to be like, oh yeah, if you were ethnically ambiguous, you could play whatever you looked like, which was great. Now it's kind of weird because I'm getting pigeonholed in the sense of, well, I can't play Middle Eastern even though I look Middle Eastern. I can't play Latina even though I look it because they're like, well, we want it to be, are you actually that?
You want to be direct source now.
Right. So I feel like it's kind of overcorrected a little bit because it's like, they basically want like an ancestry test now. Like my friend Robbie Damon is part Native American, and he said he had
Robbie
to send
Damon, he's Peter Parker from Spider-Man, right?
Yeah, he's Peter Parker. He's also Mitsuki on Boruto, Tuxedo Mask and Sailor Moon. Like he for a certain voiceover role, so it wasn't even on camera. It was voiceover. He sent his ancestry test to prove that he was qualified for that role.
That's unbelievable.
So I think it's getting a little too far the other way, but hopefully it'll kind of course correct. But it is kind of nice because it requires casting people to think outside the box. So, for example, most of the, women in animation right now, like in original animation, not necessarily in anime, tend to be white. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that that's just kind of how the cookie crumbled. And they're great. And really, in animation, if that person still sounds great, they're going to keep using them. So Jennifer Hale and these people, Tara Strong, these people who've been doing it since I was a kid.
Right.
If it's like Game of Thrones, it's like you got to wait till one of them like, you know, quits the industry or dies before somebody else can like have a spot, because they're just so good. And
Great Delisle too, or Great Griffin.
Yeah.
She's you know, I've had the opportunity to meet her and hang with her, and yeah, I really had no idea how established and how long she's been in the game, but wow.
Yeah, and the cool thing about voiceover, it also means that like your looks don't dictate what parts you play.
Right.
So they can keep playing it as long as they sound young enough or whatever. So, but then it means it's harder for people like me and just other new voice actors to get in, because if there's no vacancies, why would they ever look for you? So I did have my big break in animation kind of came when, you know, for something for Disney where they were looking for to kind of be a little bit more ethnic specific, and they wanted a person of color to play this certain character. And so they couldn't listen to the Greys and the Taras and all that. So they had to broaden their search, and they finally listened to the auditions that we were sending in, you know, the ones who they didn't know. And that's how they've discovered a lot of new talent that way. So now, you know, now that they know me, I am getting called in for the same stuff that they're getting called in for. Probably still not going to book it because they know them way better, but it's still just nice that, like, okay, the fact that they had to try and be more inclusive meant that people got a chance.
Right.
Who might not have been heard.
Now, we talked about this before too. I like always to talk to my guests about hardships, you know, because I need our listeners to be educated, and I need them to understand that it's just not you watching a TV show or a movie and just thinking, I'm going to do that next week. Can you talk about maybe, in other words, let me rephrase that. Were there any times that you didn't think any of this was going to happen? Yeah,
I mean, like I said, that thing where they finally, you know, heard me, that only happened like within the past like 2 years.
Right.
And I've been doing this for about 8. So there was a long time where it just kind of felt like I was working multiple jobs. I was working at a hockey rink. I was like a scorekeeper, but I was also babysitting, and I was doing transcribing, which was really funny because FYI, when you buy an iPhone and there's like that screen that's like, oh, you know, like it's the contract where it says all the things they're allowed to do.
Right.
Basically, you're signing your rights away, because my job when I was transcribing was to like listen to people's conversations, not like live ones, but like basically any sort of voice to text things it would record, and then we would like improve upon it. So basically we were teaching the system how to listen. So I heard all sorts of people's voice to texts and stuff like that, and it was crazy. But some of it was just like, find the nearest Chili's in Albuquerque, but then other ones were like, you know, I can't believe you would break up with me. You're such a like, you know, like, and then other ones were like really like people were sexting on voice to text.
Oh,
that
no.
was interesting. So anyway, that was one of my many jobs. I used to work on a horse farm. Like, I've had a lot of different things, but I never doubted that I would make it eventually. But there were definitely times where I'm like, maybe I'm never going to be able to make a living off of this, or maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, or maybe I'll never be like a big character. I'll always just be like a supporting background player, and I guess that's fine, you know, like so.
I mean, the other thing too, what I love about your experience is that it grounded you, one, and it made you well-rounded on a whole nother case. Like, you have a broader perspective than a lot of people running around the world right now that just has this one-dimensional mindset about things. And that's a treasure.
It's one of those things where on one hand I would resent it when I was going through it, because I'm like, man, I wish I had a rich parent who could have just paid my rent when I moved to LA so I could have just focused on my acting, or I wish that I had a parent in the industry who could have just given me roles. Like, you know, like I resented the fact that so many people around me had that, and it just seemed so easy. But I realized, yeah, okay, it was easy, but for me it built character. Like, I now know what it's like to struggle, you know, and to like not know if you're going to be able to pay rent, and to, you know, and to not have parents who can just bankroll you, you know. So everything I have now, I can be like, wow, I built that, you know. I have that sense of pride that it wasn't handed to me. And Yeah, like, so I as much as I'm like, man, I wish I had rich parents, I kind of don't, because it made me appreciative of what I have now, because I actually had to earn it and wait for it.
You know, thank you so much for saying that, because those are the most treasured words you could ever hear when talking about a situation like this. I come across a bunch of people who think it may be easy doing what you're doing, or even to some extent what I'm doing. And I have this saying, it's like, you gotta, you can't lay claim to the fame or the name without the gain.
Mm-hmm.
And that came to me because I've had experiences where people thought that they could work along doing things that I was doing production wise or whatever like that, putting things together, even this podcast to some extent, and think that they didn't have to hustle, thinking all they had to do was just a minor thing to gain a lot. And I'm like, no, you're going to have to learn how to grind. You'll get the benefits of everything when it comes. And in some cases, you shouldn't stress the outcome of the benefits. You just the experience alone and the passion for it is what matters. Exactly.
Because that's the only thing that's going to drive you through when you can't see the horizon. Because for most of an actor's career, like 99% of the time, even when you're like a celebrity, 99% of the time, your answers are going to be no. Like when you audition,
Correct.
Only one person can get that part. Mm-hmm. So even like was it Moulin Rouge, I think, it was like, Nicole Kidman got the part, but Renee Zellweger auditioned, like a bunch of other celebrities auditioned, and they, like even at that level, you're still going to get a no more often than you're going to get a yes, just because of math. You can't all get it. So if you're doing it to get famous or to get rich, you're going to be disappointed most of the time, because it's not going to be easy and it's not going to come to you. But if you do it because you're like, I love this and I cannot see myself doing anything else that would make me this happy in spite of all the crap this industry has, that's when you should do it. Because at cons, I would say like 70% of the people who come up to our tables at conventions are like, yeah, I want to be a voice actor. Like, I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be easy. And I'm just like, oh man, like, it's not just like a hobby. It's not just something you can just like roll into and just expect stuff to come to you. Like, people don't realize all the stuff you're doing behind the scenes, all the classes you're taking, all the connections you're making, and all of the, like, I freaking hired a dialect coach so that I could have an edge on other people
who might not.
Yeah, like, I'm like, you know what? Because it's like on Amazon. I describe like acting like this. You have to give them a reason to choose you over anybody else. So like with agencies, like I said, okay, they already have a lot of white girls, or like for women, it's always harder to get an agent as a woman in voiceover, just because there's not as many roles for women.
Right.
So, and there's more female actors than there are male actors. So there's just more competition. So you have to be like, okay, I get it. You have a lot of women, but how about a woman who speaks French? Or how about a woman who also can, do an Egyptian dialect? Or, like I taught myself a bunch of dialects. I really trained so that anytime a video game audition came in and they're like, we need slight Egyptian or we need slight Irish or whatever, like I could just be like, yep. And I could beat out all those other people who hadn't done the prep work, who hadn't invested as much. So like that's what it takes. It takes that kind of, not ruthlessness, because you're not ruthless towards other people,
right,
but a ruthless attacking of like your own career and treating it like it's a business, on Amazon.
Which it is. It honestly is. It's not even any little of it. It is exactly that. It
literally, you are self-employed, like, and you got to
independent contractors.
Like if somebody's ordering something and two things cost the same amount, but one item on Amazon says, oh, it can do this and it can scratch your back and it can do, like, you're going to go with the item that has more functionality for the same price. So it's like, be that item that can do more and just give people more of an incentive to choose you.
Right. Two things that I took from what you just said too. One, yourself, Stephanie Shea, Molly Flanagan, and Danielle Kennedy, all who's been on this show,
mm-hmm.
are hustlers to the capital H. And I'm saying that because even if you're not doing what, like, the most known thing that you guys are known for, you guys are still doing other things. Like you, Molly, and Danielle also do theater and do stage just for the sake of it. That's how much you guys love it. You may not get anything for it. You may not get it like as much for it sometimes, but you're doing it for the craft. You're doing it for the passion. That's real. That's
Yeah,
real
like,
art.
It's and not everybody's that way. Like some people are just like, I just want to do voiceover, or
Which is fine.
But I do think it does help. It gives you an edge. It keeps your skills sharp, because theater flexes different muscles than voiceover, and even anime flexes different muscles than like video games. Like just trying to do it all just makes you more well-rounded, and also keeps you on your toes. You never get too apathetic or complacent, because if I do a lot of voiceover and haven't done theater for a while, and then I go back to doing theater, it takes me like a little while for my voice to come back, because voiceover, you're not projecting as much from your diaphragm because the mic is right there. You don't want to blow out the mic. So everything kind of becomes a little bit more intimate sounding and a little bit more quiet. But then on stage, you have to be able to just belt that stuff. And so it's just funny to see like my body being like, oh, we forgot how to do this, and like having to relearn things continuously. And it's good for your brain, I think.
Absolutely. Especially me, that I used to work for the Alzheimer's Association. I know everything about being cognitive as possible. So
yeah, keep that thing active, like it's hopefully your brain will last you your whole life, except for some people. It seems like it never showed up, but
unfortunately.
Anyway.
Such is our generation. But I mean, it definitely shows. I mean, we talked about this when I was just watching the first few episodes of the new series, you assimilate to that character so easily. It just feels so natural just hearing it, matching with the ADR process as well that you guys have worked on. And I also watched your Good Things commercials too, and it just sounds so natural. Like it's like you mastered your craft so well, to the point you could tell when you really thoroughly listen to how you do your voiceovers. Do you feel now comfortable that I feel like you're rather at the level of getting to master level with your voice acting and your craft, or getting there, but do you feel comfortable doing them as they sound, or do you feel still the need to prep?
I mean, unfortunately in voiceover, you really don't get a chance to prep, in the sense of like, you never get scripts ahead of time.
Right.
And sometimes you don't even know what you're doing until you get into the booth. So obviously for like Boruto, I know when I'm doing a Boruto session, but like, I'm not getting scripts ahead of time. I can't really do any practice. But that's kind of what the training is for. Like the years of training is like that's your practice. Like that's kind of where you learn to go like, oh, okay. Like, well, if I for whatever reason can't sound like a little girl.
Right.
But like some actors, like Cassandra Morris, she's like, I think she's older than me, but she still sounds like a little kid, just naturally. Like that is her thing. Whereas for me, I guess I've always had more of a tomboyish voice. So I kind of learned like, okay, I guess like my voice lends itself more to tomboys or to like little boys. And that sounds weird. Anyway, I don't say any, I don't go anywhere near them.
Well, we digress.
Anyway, but you kind of learn your type after a while. Because
right.
I think that's the other thing in this industry is the sooner you can figure out what you're best at, the less you'll flounder, because then you can be like, okay, yeah, I might not sound like a young soccer mom, but I can sound like my thing is like the best friend who like knows what they're talking about, and it's kind of cool but not threatening. So it's
right.
like, hey, good things. Like, hey, I got these crackers for you, but it's okay. Like it's not. That's a very specific type, but it's one of those where if you need that, I am on a list of like 5 people that casting people go to, because they know that about me. It is great for that.
Right.
But then if they need the person who sounds authentically like a little girl, or the person who sounds like, I don't know, a grandmother, they're not going to go to me. So that I think is one of the most crucial things you can do in voiceover, on camera, or whatever, is just knowing like what your essence is and really just leaning into that and embracing it. And yeah, it's branding, typing, whatever you want to call it, but that's crucial.
I always believe in the term iron sharpens iron, especially when it comes to, the world of the arts. Is there anyone that you work with in the studios or on stage even that you learn from the most?
I always really love group records. So for anime, we don't really record with other people. Video games, a lot of times we're also by ourselves. But for animation, sometimes you do get to do a session with the other actors. And I did a session for Puss in Boots once for Netflix, where I got to be in a session with John DiMaggio, Grey Griffin, Eric Bauza, and a couple other people. And I remember just being floored and inspired because like when you talk about mastery, like these are people who have been doing it even longer than I have. Like I feel pretty confident, but they're like, it's just like they're effortlessly brilliant. And it was so inspiring, because the other thing that was inspiring was not just that they were, how brilliant they were, but also, and this is going to sound terrible, also how often they messed up.
Right.
Because I'm such a perfectionist that I beat myself up in the booth. And if I mess up a line, or I'm like, sorry, you know, and, or I get frustrated that I didn't get it perfect every time. And then seeing them do it, they were just like, they'd botch a line, they'd laugh about it, and then they'd move on. Like they just, like they didn't take it to heart. And it made me realize even they mess up. So if they mess up, I need to give myself some grace and just have fun with it and stop trying to be perfect, because literally nobody can be perfect. I
try to tell myself that a lot too.
But we tell ourselves, like, we know in theory that nobody's perfect, but we're still like, but I'm gonna try, you know, I'm gonna try my darndest.
Like if you mess up clearly, like it's a heartbreak.
Right. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I'm probably the worst person in the world, and I should probably just quit because other people are perfect at it. You're
squinching down in the corner. There's this dark room, and all it is a spotlight on you. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and the whole world is pointing at you like, ha ha, what a loser. And to be fair, there are always those people who do that. I get people like that all the time on Twitter who are like, oh, I hate you, you're the worst. But it's like,
oh, they don't count.
Yeah, it's just like, you know, that was the biggest thing for me, was getting over. I'm still not completely over it, but like I'm getting better at not being such a people pleaser, because I used to want so much validation and so much love from people that I was like, I'll just do whatever you want me to do. Like I'll appease you. And then I started doing my own writing and started doing my own stuff. And it drives me nuts when I see videos that I've posted on YouTube or something, and there's like, there might be 99% likes, but then there's that one person who's like, dislike.
Never fails.
I will just, you know, or like a comment that's like, you suck. And I will, of course, hang on that comment and just be like, what could I have done? Like making like one of those like beautiful mind, or like a conspiracy chart, like
right.
Hitting stuff to it at 2 a.m. Like, maybe if I had done this, or then they would have liked me.
That I've learned that they will never be pleased. You will never be able to please people like that. And so half of the time they're just trolling intentionally to do it, knowing if you knew their background, it probably has no merit at all.
Yeah, well, and also it's kind of just like, it's funny because I started learning like, because I used to think that other people's opinions were objective reality and mine couldn't be trusted. But now I'm like, wait a second. So this person thinks I sound too much like a little girl, and this person thinks I sound too deep. Obviously can't be both, so maybe that's just their opinion. You know, like I'm like learning that like, oh, well, if I like it, then that should be my objective opinion, or like the objective truth for me. I guess that's not objective. If you're like, the objective truth for me is literally that's subjective. Whatever. Anyway, like you kind of just have to roll with it.
You'd be surprised at how much of a humanized situation that is. I guess this is probably the way I can say it. It happens to the best of us. And we all have to learn that reality sooner or later. So eventually it starts to get so repetitive after a while. It's just like, all right, now I get what's going on. And all right, I'm moving on.
Yeah, like, because you spend so much time, I think, especially when you're younger as an artist, you're like, oh, I hope they like me. And just like beating yourself up. And after a while you realize I'm spending so much time devoted to people who don't even give a crap about me, and they just tweet something and they move on about their day. That I'm not spending my time focusing on my art and bettering me. Like, so then you kind of eventually you just get over it. Especially, I love watching the mean tweet videos that have like celebs read mean tweets.
Right.
Because it makes me realize, again, you will never get to a level where everybody will like you. Even if you're Chris freaking Pratt, who seems to be like the most
lovable person.
I'm sure there are people out there who are like, you're stupid, I hate your face.
And also what I learned about that too, I guess from a psychological perspective, is that there's always a ulterior motive to why people are doing the malicious stuff that they do online.
Yeah, you know, hurting people try to hurt other people. And a lot of times it's because, you know, they don't like themselves or whatever, or they genuinely just might not like you. But the fact that I think there's a difference between people who like don't like somebody. Like there's a certain actress that for some reason I cannot stand. Yeah. And I'm aware that there's no reason for it. I'm just like, I don't want to see you and stuff. But I would never tell her that. So I think there is a difference between like, I have an opinion, and somebody who's like, and I need you to know my opinion.
With everything that's going on in our society right now, social media gives people a way to displace their anger and frustration on everybody. And in the higher the hierarchy, the better in this case.
Exactly. Yeah, like, and that's the other thing is I had somebody tweet something stupid at me once, and I retweeted it with a comment, like a kind of like a funny comeback thing, and and the person was like baffled by the fact that I had responded, and they even said, like, when people were like, "Dude, why would you say that?" He's like, "I don't know, I didn't think she was going to respond." Weird element where people think that, like, if you're in the public eye, you're not a person
until you show your face.
Right. And so it's just kind of funny that, like, some people they're just like screaming into the void. They're just in pain.
Yeah. I just saw an episode of, what was it? Big Bang Theory, where Neil deGrasse Tyson was having a Twitter battle with Raj, and all of a sudden he called Raj, and Raj was scared as hell. And because now they're not tweeting, and he's not hiding behind the proverbial bushes of Twitter or whatever like that. Now he's talking to him like verbally,
like a person.
Yeah, and he's hearing that iconic voice of his at this point. And once he got off the phone, the whole entire dispute was wrapped right there. And
that is so true.
And then shortly after, he called Bill Nye, and Bill Nye wasn't even trying to hear him. He hung up immediately. Because the Neil deGrasse Tyson guy real gangster on everybody calling these people up. So, but it's true. That was the premise of it, and that's exactly what happens.
I think that's the nice thing too, though, is that at the end of the day, people might act like monsters online, but a lot of times, if you actually like talk to them as people, you kind of can find a common ground.
Yeah.
So it gives me hope that people aren't just like we're not just going towards an age where everybody's just like
this pre-apocalyptic mindset.
Yeah, like because it does feel a little bit like Mad Max out there sometimes.
It's getting there.
Anyway, it's just but that's one thing to look forward to if you want to be an actor or a voice actor. Is like the more you are out there, the more people will see you, which can be a good thing. Right. If you like being seen, it can also mean you're subjected to more craziness. So that's, I guess, when we were talking about the downside earlier, that's one of the downsides.
Right. But you've overcome all of that, and since then you've not only have successfully now doing these shows, starring these roles, you're also taking on different hats now. You're taking on other opportunities and ventures as well. Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, so I within the past couple of years I got into writing. Like, I've always enjoyed writing, but I started writing like my own web series, and I have this like, it's on YouTube. It's called Ghosts and Stuff Inc. And it's basically like Parks and Rec meets like Scooby-Doo. And it's really fun. Like, it kind of, I think it helped with the frustration of acting sometimes, because with acting, you're always saying somebody else's words, and it's always up to somebody else whether you get chosen, and you're like, I just want to act. So sometimes creating your own project just gives you that agency, that sense of like, yeah, you know what? I don't have to wait till somebody decides to choose me. I get to choose myself. I get to write the role that's perfect for me and create the world. So I've been addicted to writing since. So I have a bunch of ideas for like pilots and stuff, and I write ADR scripts for different like anime and stuff like that. So like, there's a really brilliant show called Last Man. It's not an anime, it's like a French animation, but it's one of the cool, it's like Rocky meets Supernatural, it's just incredible. And I believe it's on VRV right now, but I wrote like the English script for that. There's a movie that I can't quite say, but it's like MFKZ, I think is the
which Stephanie Shea has been like promoting that immensely on Twitter, and it looks awesome. I love the whole the hip hop graffiti art style that they presented in there, and it looks very interesting. It looks like it also is not for kids.
It's definitely not for kids. It's even when I saw it at the theater, the adults were very often going, oh, because it's just very graphic.
It's gritty,
yeah, but they also were laughing a lot. So it's like a combination, because it was like animated in Japan, created by a French guy who lives in LA and loves LA culture. So it's set in like a Neo-California, like new Los Angeles. Like it's got the like 3 different cultures mixed in. But there's that. So I'm writing a lot. And also I was never able to get the on-camera thing going very much in LA, because like I said, it's just really competitive. The doors are kind of closed, but I kind of have been shifting my sights to Atlanta.
Wakanda Jr.
Yeah, exactly. Because like Marvel has a 10-year contract with Pinewood Studios, so they're going to be shooting all their movies out there until 2026. Like Walking Dead's out there, Stranger Things, Ozark, like the most random stuff. My friend Cress he's on Black Lightning. He is Black Lightning.
Exactly. That's awesome.
So there's just so much happening out there. And so the cost of living is better. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try my hand out there and see, shake it up. I've been in LA for about 8 years.
I definitely want to see you on an episode of Black Lightning.
I'm telling you, maybe I drop a little bit of weight because, the CW is like pretty people. Like, it's the people who are like, oh my gosh, my friend one time asked his agent, he's like, and this is not Crest, this is my other friend.
Right.
He was like, hey, can you submit me for more CW stuff? And he's like, buddy, you're hot, but you're not CW hot.
Wow.
The ironic thing is that friend is now a lead character on a CW show filming in Toronto right now.
Interesting and awesome at the same time.
Yes, it's like, obviously he is CW hot, or things change. But either way,
I love that you say that too, because I immensely watch virtually all of their comic book based shows, even Riverdale, and it's almost like their version of a Michael Bay movie.
Yeah,
I've been to a Michael Bay filming, and because he filmed here, unfortunately he filmed the second Transformers movie in Philly.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because there's a scene in there that's supposed to be Princeton, New Jersey, and in fact it's University of Penn, which is their rivals, believe it or not, I believe. I thought that was hilarious, but he decided to film here, and there was some. Forgive me, Philly, you're my home, I love you, but there were some uncharacteristically looking people in the scenes. And I was like, nah, you ain't from here. One of these things is not like the other type of scenarios right there.
Oh, you mean like they look too like LA?
They look extremely LA.
Oh my gosh. LA is ridiculous. It's the hottest people from everybody's town in one place.
Yeah, it really got it like just migration.
It's the prettiest people, the thinnest people. Like, you will never feel uglier than when you live in LA.
What is forgive me, what is the Bible verse, I guess, when everybody dies and they, the good goes up to heaven?
Oh, the Rapture.
The Rapture, yes. I'm thinking like, why didn't I not think about that? And I was just watching American Dad, and it was an episode based on that. But yeah, it's kind of like the living version of the Rapture, where it's like once you get to that certain level and you still look like Kelly from Saved by the Bell, you just end up in California. It's so true.
That's why I'm like, oh, that's also another reason why I'm like, you know what? I'm excited to go to a town where not everybody's an actor or a model or a dancer. Like, I'm excited to go to a town where people are also trying to be musicians or bankers or architects. Like, I'm kind of excited about having a little bit more of a balance, like a work-life balance, and have more diversity in my friendships.
Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, if I can get down like maybe a couple clothing sizes and I can be CW hot, then maybe I could be like a Black Lightning villain. That's my new goal now. I'll be like, Cress, hey, look, let me on your show.
If you ask me, I think you're ready to go. So
thank you. With my blue hair, I could totally be like some sort of like electric shock thing.
I mean, or even be on the Flash and just like be somewhere from another Earth or whatever.
I would totally be down to, because I was just in Vancouver and I remember thinking like, man, I would not mind booking a show and having to film it in Vancouver. This is a gorgeous city. So yeah, Flash, Arrow, Riverdale, all that stuff films in Vancouver. Nothing films in LA anymore, basically. Like, half-hour comedies do, but everything else basically is shooting wherever it's cheaper because they get money back if they shoot in other places.
And after Atlanta, I think other cities have started to notice that too. So now they're starting to, jump on the bandwagon a bit. But so far, Georgia it's nothing stopping them.
Yeah, Georgia's it's popping, and I'm excited though. I'm excited to see opportunities and jobs popping up in other cities, because then that means you don't have to move to LA if you want to pursue a film career. You could, if you're in the South, you can be like, if you're in Alabama, you could just go to Georgia. Like, I like that. When I go to conventions and I'm in Canada, I don't have to tell people, oh, move to LA if you want to be a voice actor. I can be like, hey, My Little Pony is recorded up here. Like, a lot of stuff's recorded up here. Go to Vancouver, go to Toronto. Like, I like that we don't have like a monopoly on the entertainment industry anymore.
Right. So thank you so very much for being on the show. I got 2 more questions, but thank you. You are a blessing.
Well, thank you.
So I've had a great time, and definitely you've given myself and our listeners some great things and perspectives to go on and pursuing your dreams pretty much. But just two more questions, and then we can definitely talk about, plug everything that you got going on right now as well. But one of the things I wanted to talk about was Dark and Dicey, which is another venture that you go into, which involves a lot of talented guests like yourself, a lot of guests of people's favorite fandoms, if you will, to play a villainous version of Dungeons and Dragons. Now, myself, I am an unfortunate person because my first experience sucked. And I, almost took me away from the experience of playing Dungeons and Dragons. From your experience, what is the best way to get somebody to get into D&D?
I think it's always good to play with friends, especially theater major friends or improv friends, because it's basically just group, like collective storytelling. So if you have people who are able to suspend their disbelief or really good at voices or getting into character and just committing and going for it and having fun, like those are the best people. Because then Dungeons and Dragons feels to me like the way it felt when you were a kid and you got to go with your friends and you're like, oh my gosh, and then the monster came and you're like, oh no, everybody run. Like you're basically just like creating a world together and playing together, but just as adults.
Right.
With more math.
Oh God, let's not even talk about the damn dice.
Yeah. More like a million die, like there's like a 6-sided die and a 20-sided die, and like you're just like, ah. But then also it is also very helpful to have an experienced DM, like a dungeon master, because they can kind of help you figure out like what to do. Like they're the ones who can kind of guide you and be like, okay, yeah. Like you'll be playing the game and you'll be in character, and then suddenly you can be like, hey, so wait, if I roll this attack, does that mean I can do this? And then they can be like, yeah.
I think that was one of the things that was problematic with my experience, was that the dungeon master wasn't the type of dungeon master that was able to teach and get people adjusted to that experience.
Yeah, and that's why I really enjoy working with KG, because KG Tang is an incredible DM. I hear Matt Mercer's a great DM. He's the DM on Critical Role. And like they just have this, like, because they're also actors, so they have a great sense of imagination and storytelling, but they're also really patient with us. They're willing to explain stuff. They're very fair, because the DM is kind of a little bit like God. Like they get to decide sometimes who lives or dies.
Right.
So it's definitely nice to have a DM who's fair, but also who doesn't let you get away with stuff. Like, so I've had moments where I've seen my friends' characters die because they didn't roll high enough, and they're like, sorry, so I don't know. It's fun.
Some ways the DM is a director.
Exactly. The DM is they're orchestrating the whole story. You're all like, it's like they're a producer. Like you're all writers, or you're all writing the thing, but the producer kind of gets the ultimate say, right. I guess.
Right. So my final question is, this is probably pretty much an important one. I would ask if you had one lesson or thing to tell somebody who wanted to rather pursue acting or whatever. What would be the one valuable thing that you would be able to tell them?
I mean, I feel like we've covered a lot of it today, where it's like, not giving up, having that persistence, also learning how to make yourself undeniable and not interchangeable, like really finding what sets you apart. But also, I would say now, balance, because some people, especially in an industry town like LA, everybody's so much about the hustle that a lot of people lose themselves, because they're just like so focused on like, okay, I got to go to my acting class, and then I go to my waitressing job, and then I go to, an audition, and then I go to this, and I got to get new headshots, and everything becomes about the pursuit of this career. And a lot of times you lose the fun. Yeah. But also you lose stuff that makes you human. Like they don't travel. They don't take time for themselves because they're worried about missing an audition. A lot of people won't, a lot of women won't have kids because they're like, I need to get financially stable enough in my acting career before I can have kids, because I can't take 9 months off. Right. Because for guys, you can have a kid and your wife's the one who's like, whose body's changing. But if you're a woman, a lot of times those 9 months, you aren't going to audition much because you're pregnant and nobody wants to hire you. And then you're kind of probably going to be out of it for a year or two while the kids, at home. So it's a big commitment. And I just feel like don't lose yourself and your other goals in the pursuit of your acting goal, because it'll actually make you a better actor if you're well-rounded and you take time for yourself to do other hobbies and to travel and to do the things that feed you, and don't just try to be like, what do casting people want? What does the industry want? Like, how can I,
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, well said. No, I couldn't have said it better. So, Amanda, thank you so much. You've been awesome. And it's great to have you back, and I do hope I can have you back in the future with anything that's going on. I wish you the absolute best. Right now, can you please take the helm and let us know what you're going to do, what you're up to next, and as well as where we can follow you?
Sure, yeah. I have some cool stuff coming out soon. I have a Marvel Rising is a new animated show.
Wait, you're going to be a part of that?
Yeah, it's just in I think it's in one episode. I play the character Sheath. So I'm going to be in the upcoming episode with Ghost Spider called Chasing Ghosts, and I'm basically her nemesis that she's trying to hunt down. So that's going to be really cool. I have some cool stuff that I can't quite talk about yet, but maybe in a year I might be able to finally divulge.
That's still good in your realm.
Yeah. It's like cool stuff, like Disney and DreamWorks kind of stuff. So cool. I'm excited. And then obviously Atlanta, that's an exciting new development. I'll be at NecoCon in Virginia, November 2nd through 4th. And, you can find me on Twitter at Amanda_Celine. So CELINE, on Instagram at Amanda Celine Miller, on Tumblr at AmandaCelineMiller.tumblr.com, YouTube at Amanda Celine Miller Comedy, because they wouldn't let me use my own name. They're like, you have to add something. Anyway, Facebook at Amanda Celine Miller. Basically just Google it and you can find me. I look forward to cyber meeting you all, unless you're jerks. And then my Instagram or my Twitter handle is at Miley Flanagan. Direct all comments to her.
And you know what?
Handle it.
I was just about to say that. I'm like, you know what? I thought about that at first. I'm like, you know what? That's the best idea ever.
Oh yeah, mine does not suffer fools. So please, come at.
Not.
See what happens.
And if you really get pissy, she'll get Wanda Sykes with you too.
Oh my gosh, yeah, you do. They'll double team you. It'll be. And then you can tweet me because I want to see the whole thread. I want to watch with my popcorn.
Add a hashtag with it so you can connect to it easier.
Exactly.
Hashtag dumbass.
Exactly. Wait, they're hashtagging their own thing. They're like, oh no, I'm the dumbass.
Exactly. There's the cliffhanger. There's the plot right there. So, well, Amanda, thank you so very much. I want to see you in Philly, hopefully sometime in the near future. 2, I wouldn't mind seeing your stand up. So.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to start doing more of that. Hopefully in Atlanta, I can start to kind of do a little bit of just comedy clubs and just kind of hone my voice and see where it goes.
Well, definitely congratulations on everything that you've been doing, and keep up the great work. And I look forward to seeing what you got going on next.
Yeah, maybe next time we chat, I'll have a Southern accent or something. I'll be like, "Hi, I'm from Atlanta."
You will assimilate right in. That's how I know that you're comfortable.
I'm a Black Lightning, and I'm CW hot now. It's all fine. Somehow I managed to not gain 10 million pounds from all the delicious Southern food. Yeah,
good luck with that.
Yeah, as I said it, I'm like, yeah, no, I'm gonna just keep getting more plump.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this very special episode of Talk Time Live exclusive with myself and the lovely Amanda Celine Miller. On behalf of myself and Boruto herself, all I gotta say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care and tune in to the show every Saturday evening on TOONAMI. Take care.
This episode of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design, your choice for multimedia development for your brand. Visit VFISAD.com and find out how we can make your vision your reality.